Today we are going through 7 serious knives for serious knife guys. We're going to go through them quick because this is not a review. This is the Mantis pry tool, and it is exactly how it sounds. It is a pry bar knife. So it has a chisel ground edge, an S30V, with a flat spot up here for basically, you know, prying things open and, you know, getting into things, which a lot of carpenters or just a lot of labor working people would like to use. So this is for a working man. The lock face geometry is made to be a flat surface on a flat surface, so that should be a nice strong locking system, especially for a liner. You can think like the Ontario Rat 1, they kind of use the same sort of lock face geometry. Has a glass breaker on the back, deep carry clip, very grippy G10 scales, and it is riding on washers. So, you know, the pivot stability should be pretty good. I mean, it is rock solid. And like I said, you can slice, you can pry, and it's basically like a little companion. Like I said, S30V steel, G10 scales with a steel liner lock, made in Taiwan. Let's check out the next one. Now, the next one is the Kaiser Momo, and I know this just took a twist. This, I would say, is more for the guy who, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a chef or somebody who's like a kitchen guy, but somebody who's looking for that type of shape. Because as most of us know, sorry, my camera just got hit. As most of us know, there's a reason why kitchen or chef knives are the shape that they are. It's because that's a very, very useful shape for a knife. You get clearance from your fingers on a flat surface, so you don't have to worry about banging your fingers into the whatever you're cutting. You have a beautiful blade shape for utility cuts, a nice broad blade for slicing. So this is, you know, it kind of simulates that, but in a folding pocket knife. We have a titanium milled pocket clip, front flipping action, 154 CM blade steel. And this front flipper works phenomenal for such a big knife, because this is not a small knife. I mean, you can see how much room I have on the handle right there. So S30V, aluminum scales, steel liner, and a titanium milled pocket clip. Liner lock action, very, very smooth on the drop. This is definitely one that can serve you well in many, many different purposes, especially with possibly cutting up food and things like that. Now, the next one is more of a knife for just the general knife guy. This is the Padre, and I'm, you know, bringing it up because, one, they are available right now. They do have some available in crossbar locks. I do not have the crossbar lock one, but that's pretty damn awesome because the crossbar lock is going to be stronger than the frame lock. But this is more for just like a serious pocket knife guy, somebody who really, really likes pocket knives and likes the premium materials. We have messed up. We have Van X steel, which is arguably one of, if not the best super steel or the best steel you can have on a pocket knife. You know, the only thing I would say that's close to it would be Magna-Cut, which this is not Magna-Cut, but Spyderco just dropped a Magna-Cut bladed Salt Series knife with the in the Mantis construction. So there's the Spyderco Mantis. I'll have everything from this video linked down in the description with a Magna-Cut blade, making it basically impervious to the environment. So this is a knife you can take fishing, you can take in the salt water, you can do on job sites that might lead to corrosion. So that is an awesome, awesome thing. Well, this steel is even more corrosion resistant than Magna-Cut. Now, they're very close to one another, but Van X is the most corrosion resistant steel on the planet while having super steel qualities as far as edge retention goes and things like that. We have a titanium handle with this diamond pattern milling, a Damascus pivot collar, titanium mill pocket clip. This diamond pattern offers a really, really nice texture, and the action is redunculous. I mean, it has amazing thumb stud or reverse flicking action, and then you have the front flipper. So, like I said, I have not tried the crossbar lock, but, you know, hey, man, I got to imagine that it's really, really awesome. So I will have everything, like I said, linked down in the description. Next is the Chavez Renion. This one is with the kickstop. There's a lot of different Chavez knives. Now, we're going to get a little more serious here in a second, but again, this is just for a guy who really, really likes beefy knives, who likes the tougher side of knives, but doesn't want to go too extreme. The blade steel on this guy is M390 steel with a thicker blade stock, and it has a dual ground tanto. Now there is a couple different blade shapes this comes in, but it is very thin here in this cutting edge, so slicing is going to be great. The handle is a titanium frame lock. This one has the micarta inlay. This inlay work is perfection. It does come with a regular clip, or you can take the skull clip which comes on it, so it does send you an extra clip just in case if you don't like the skulls. But I personally do. This is big, it's beefy, it's thick, you know, it feels like, you know, a serious knife, and it is, while having ridiculous action. This is using the kickstop, which is, if you look, a flipper tab that is not attached to the blade. So it allows the flipper tab to stay in place back here, and it's kind of like on its own pivot. And then basically you can have a flipper tab in a higher position than it would be if it was connected to the blade, allowing it to have more leverage to break that detent, which makes for a very, very snappy action. Beautiful knife too. This is just, it's a good looking knife that has, you know, like I said, a nice tough, aggressive look to it, but also still has those premium materials for the knife guy that, like I said, likes a serious knife. Let's get to the next one. Now the next one is the Sniper Blade Works LPC. Now this one, in my opinion, is more of a self-defense knife. The way it's positioned is almost like a pistol grip for swiping and jamming into things, poking into things. The handle is very thick and robust, has a nice, robust, thick titanium scale. And you can see that lock face geometry is really good, or really well done. Mine first seemed like it had a little tiny bit of up and down, but that immediately went away as soon as I started using it. I started using it, and that lock face, it was just the lock face needed to break in. Not a big deal at all, that happens. But this G10 is nice and you know, it's not super grippy, but it has enough texture and enough grip to it to, you know, to be held very securely. The blade steel's S35VN, and this is a thick blade stock. This is something that, like I said, more for self-defense. It's not gonna be your EDC cutting tool. However, you can obviously use it for that. You can open things up, you can break down some cardboard, whatever you want to do with your knife, you can do it. But when it comes in time that you might need something that's, you know, very tough, solid, and possibly has a cutting edge, this just might be the tool for the job. You do have a single thumb stud with a lot of grip on it. Phenomenal detent. It is riding on bearings, very, very smooth. And this front choil does allow you to choke up if you are going to possibly do some sort of work with it, or the pinch grip, or whatever you want to do with the knife. But nice and robust, and it's just, you know, it's a badass knife. If you know, just looking at it, and you can see this thing is aggressive all on its own. Lots of hardware, titanium frame lock, G10 show side, and yeah, very, very badass. Next is the PMP Knives Beast Prime in 3V steel. 3V is an extremely tough steel. This is a steel that you find on very hard used fixed blades. It is one of the toughest steels on the planet, especially when we're talking about a super tough steel that holds a good edge. This steel has edge retention similar to like S30V, but with extreme, extreme toughness. This one has a dual ground, I want to call it a clip point tanto, because it clips down and then it has an Americanized tanto, so you have a very pronounced secondary tip and a primary tip for thrusting and for utility cuts. But it has a hollow grind here, so it actually gets down pretty thin for such a thick pry bar like blade. The handle is made of titanium with this frag pattern to offer some texturing, a titanium backspacer, and a titanium milled pocket clip. It does have a steel lock bar insert, and this thing is very, very heavy. It's very beastly. These are on sale right now, I believe, at the link I'm going to use. I'm not sure how much the sale is, but I will have them linked down in the description. I believe they even have DLC versions. I'm not positive. It might be PVD, but it looks like DLC. Either way, having a coated 3V blade just might be a good thing for you if you're in certain places, because it doesn't tend to be the most corrosion resistance. I don't have an issue with it, but depending on where you're at, you might. But this is just an absolute monster of a pocket knife, and it's starting to get to the level of extreme that is pretty shocking when you pull it out of your pocket and you go to use it. People do not expect people to usually carry knives like this, or at least of this size. Now, before we get to the most extreme knife in this video, I want to show you guys another knife that's not part of the list, just like we did with the Spyderco Manix, because these are available right now. Hinderer XM-18 in the Skinner blade shape, or the Skinner style. I do not have a Skinner, but the sheep's foot I think is close enough. So I will put some pictures up on the screen of what's available when I'm filming this. This is a USA made badass pocket knife. Yes, I have my, my little complaints here and there with the heat treatment and with the HRC being on the softer side. I prefer a harder steel, but it's still M390 or, whatever steel they're using on the model that you get. And, it's still going to be a super steel. It's just not going to hold its edge as long as it possibly could have with harder steel. It is a very thick blade stack. They do sharpen up, pretty well, very, very well. This one has a Timascus show side, which is, not, it doesn't come with a Timascus, scale. I do have to reflame it, so it brings back the anodization, but these are the ones that are available, the XM-18s. The XM-24s, this is a very big knife, just to be clear. This is a monster of a knife, and very desired, but this is more EDC friendly, right? The XM-18 is going to be a little bit more people size while still being a large knife. This one is the slicer, so it's a little bit thinner, a little bit slicier, a little bit slimmer in the hand, but even the regular one, it's a little bit beefier in the handle, but it's a beefy knife that is a relatively tough knife while also being made in the USA with premium quality and great materials, great fit, like all the little parts I love. Have just looking at all these little parts, man, you can just see this thing is supposed to be built very, very tough. The action's good. Some say the flipper tab's a bit pokey, and yeah, it can be, but it's tolerable, so not a big deal. But anyways, Hinderers are available right now. Now let's get to the most serious knife of today's video. The Max Ace Vortex S. This is the more budget-friendly version because the original one was an all titanium. Now, why is this thing so serious? It has to do with this little guy right here. Now, if you just look at this guy, this is a monster. It is a folding kukri. Now, in order for it to be as serious as it looks, it needs this pin. This pin goes through that hole right there and basically turns it into an extremely locked folding knife, because I would say it's a fixed blade, but in order to close this knife or to break it, you would have to break this pin or the blade. So it allows you to baton with it, allows you to chop with it, basically allows you to use it similar to a fixed blade while it being a 1 pound pocket knife. The blade is 5 inches overall. The overall length is just under 1 foot. The thickness right here is just under 1 inch. This is a big knife, and it is very comfortable in the hand. It feels like a knife that, if you really needed a serious folding knife, this just might be it. It is an absolute beast. The blade steel on this one is SLD Magic, which SLD Magic is the core steel. It's somewhat of like a San Ma. You can actually see the edge right there, or you can see the line right there of the core steel coming out, and you can see the stripe down the middle of the core steel in the center. So it allows the outside steel to be a little bit more stainless, while the SLD Magic is the actual steel that you're going to be using for cutting, chopping, and things like that. G10 scales, steel liners. We do have a steel bent over pocket clip and a titanium full backspacer. These are the thumb studs and the stop pin. Talk about a serious stop pin, right? Look at that. Whoo! And with that other pin put in place, man, this thing is basically an indestructible pocket knife. Now there is a whole bag of extra hardware. You got an extra pivot, and this is a big pivot. When you just look at the pivot, you can see what type of knife this is because it has a serious pivot inside of it. And like I said, extra hardware. It even has an extra pin. Max Ace knives always come with extra hardwares, you know, and extra things just in case if something happens. But I am planning on doing a full video testing on this Big Daddy to see how tough it actually is. If you guys like this type of content, I will put some cards up here on the screen for you to click on. I appreciate you guys watching. Work hard, stay tough. Until next time, peace.